Okay, we're live. So, I mentioned in a few posts, ask me questions because people ask me questions in DMs that are kind of long and personal, and some people ask questions in the comments. And so I love gathering them all. And let me know if you guys can hear me if you're having trouble hearing me. But I love gathering all the questions and then answering them because a lot of people have the same questions and it's very helpful. And if you miss any part of this live stream, I will repost it. So I want to get into the first question, which is, do narcissists, borderlines, people with personality disorders, do they have addiction issues? And the answer is often. There is a comorbidity, which means happening at the same time with people that have been diagnosed or at least exhibit personality disorders like narcissism, borderline, sociopath, antisocial, all of them, right? And addiction issues, because people that have personality disorders and or show symptoms of those things, and it's pretty obvious when that is the case, they're people that don't like to take accountability for their behavior, and they like to numb out and deflect. And so what that addiction goes pairs really well with that in a toxic way. So instead of taking accountability, let's say they use alcohol. Oh, I'm sorry, I was blacked out. It didn't happen that way. That's a big thing with narcissists. It didn't happen that way. You're remembering incorrectly. Or they'll just say, I was fucked up. I was blacked out. And then end the story. All of a sudden that just stops everything from any type of accountability. Even though perhaps if you were in the same situation, or if you did something like that and you used that excuse, that would not be okay. But that is something that they do. And it's really just to check out of life in a way, and really, like I said, not take accountability for anything. But a lot of personality disorders are not genetic. They're a coping mechanism. They're the way to soothe the nervous system, and it's obvious, and it's often a trauma response. So it's a set of defense mechanisms that comes from some type of trauma. So and so is addiction, right? So those things go together. And so if you have a lot of trauma that you haven't dealt with, hello from the Mud City. Hi. So if you have a lot of trauma that you haven't dealt with, you will create certain defense mechanisms. And that's okay if you have an awareness and want to heal them. And what usually produces that awareness is we have certain tension or certain toxic patterns that are uncomfortable for us in relationships. Now, narcissists, avoidant people with personality disorders, it's like, oh well, okay, I'll just create the same drama with the next person. Or they just typically discard very easily and numb out with alcohol. They can numb out with another person. Any type of addiction, shopping, anything. So it is very common, and it's very frustrating because it's kind of like, especially when they hooked you in the love bombing phase with compliments, generosity, just being the very supportive person that you wanted them to be, and you get hooked in and you fall in love with that version of them, and then they start with all of their drinking and their drugging or their whatever the addiction is, sex, alcohol, smoking, it doesn't really matter. It's all a form of numbing out. So it is very common. And then instead of dealing with it, if you give them shit about it, it's like, bye. And it can be really frustrating because you feel very disposable, but it's like they're either putting the addiction ahead of them, but a lot of the times, and a lot of people get heartbroken, like they're choosing this addiction over me, they're choosing this behavior over me. And it's kind of like, it's more of, yes, ostensibly that's what it looks like, but it's more of the fact that it's too scary for them to confront those things. It's not impossible. It's just scary, or that they don't want to. I put what the description is about in the live stream, but I'm answering questions that I received throughout the week in my DMs and comments, and they're mostly centered around personality disorders, addiction, and relationships and mental health. But if you have a question, you can ask me anything. And then following into that, the next question I got was, if they stop drinking, if they stop using, if they stop whatever their addiction is, all of our relationship problems will be solved, right? No. So, and they often get worse. And I'll explain why in a second, but that is absolutely false. And people absolutely believe that if they would just figure out this, whatever the addiction is, that everything would go away. All the problems would just stop. Even if it's like a codependent addiction to another person, like this person has like a creepy relationship with their mom, or they say that they're just so busy with work, like a workaholic, or using their kid. It could be anything. It could be any type of relationship or other addiction. It's not, that's not the case. And I really know it looks like that, but I'm going to repeat it again because we learn things through repetition, not just by hearing it once. But it's not the case. And it's really heartbreaking to hear that. But here's the reason, especially if there's an overlapping or a comorbidity with a personality disorder, because underneath the addiction, they're just numbing. They're just trying to numb, right? These people are very dysregulated people. So they're trying to numb with whatever addiction that they have, and they're not doing the inner work. Narcissists, people with borderline personality, any type of personality disorder, they don't like to do the inner work, even if they go to therapy 3 times a week. I've worked with narcissists and done couples. Oh, I go to therapy all the time. What are you doing? What are you doing there? You can do that. It's like the people that go to the gym and just sit on a machine. You're not actually, you might actually physically go there, but you're not doing the inner work. And the inner work is uncomfortable, and it requires you to take responsibility for yourself. And people with personality disorders do not like to do that. And also addiction. People that have addictions, whether they're active or not, and personality disorders, they look the same. It's the same type of defense mechanisms. It's the same type of impulsivity, the same type of thing they have in relationships. So, and actually, if you know anything about like 12-step, there's a really famous letter that the founder, his name's Bill W., wrote about this phase of addiction. And he's like, yeah, we think we're so cool because we've been sober for X amount of years, but we still, our relationships suck. It's just still there. And anyone that has been with, like married to, or been with someone that has gotten clean and sober, they always say, fuck, this got worse. All of their personality stuff got worse. And they're really bummed out about that. And so I'm just wanting to tell you that oftentimes, like a narcissist that has addiction issues or any type of person, they'll pull you back in. I'm going to be clean and sober. I'm going to, it's just the relationship is that important to me. And I'm going to give up this bad behavior or this bad thing. And they'll reel you back in and get your hopes up high because you still have that addicted chemical state from the love bombing phase that you're addicted to. So they pull you back in with, oh yes, it's all going to be better now. I'm clean and sober. I'm not doing that behavior anymore, until you get a little comfortable, and then boom, right back at it again. And then you're on edge again, and then you're back in that cortisol state. And it could be a really bad abusive cycle. It's a cycle of abuse, right? And then I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I'm saying that if you are dealing with someone, anyone with a personality disorder or not, that has an addiction issue, it's going to get worse unless they're really capable, not even capable, of course they are capable, but if they're willing to do the inner work and really look at themselves and really take accountability for their shit behavior. And a lot of them aren't able to do that. So just know that it can get worse. I've given this example in other videos that I've done where, like, when I was on my healing journey around this, I dated someone that was, abused alcohol and a narcissist. So I'm like, okay. And I thought the same thing. I'm just going to date a guy that's like sober, and then that'll be, but I was still attracting this energy of narcissistic people. And so of course I started like dating this guy that, I've been sober for 14 years, but all the personality stuff was still there. Sometimes people like thought he was drunk even, like, but because all of those things, just like in the letter that Bill W. talks about, like, you will act the same if you don't deal with these underlying issues, what you were trying to numb with the alcohol. And so all those, and I was like in shock, even though logically, like, I have an advanced degree in psychology, logically I knew that, like, I was still like, oh no, this can't be happening again. Like, the addiction and everything that looks like the addiction is still there, because they're these like narcissistic personality traits and just, relationship stuff. And I was at a level of consciousness where I believed like that's what I deserved, and that's what Love is all of those things that I talk about in my other content and in my course on, thriving after toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse. But it is a thing and it does happen. So if you are thinking that way and you don't want to date someone that drinks or is clean and sober, like ask them if they're doing the work, if they're doing inner work. If they're in program, a 12-step thing, ask them if they're going to Al-Anon or ACA or if they're actually doing stuff. And as you heal, that stuff becomes more obvious to you if someone, is aware, and if they're just still doing avoidant defense mechanisms, or if they just still have like chaotic relationships, it will be very obvious to you and you won't ignore it. So on YouTube, the next question was, I posted a video. I posted it on all platforms, and it was about, I was just expressing gratitude about the fact that like, I'm at a place where I've removed toxic people out of my life and I now help other people heal and really like thrive, like recover and thrive after toxic relationships and narcissistic abuse. And there is a phase where like just so many people are removed or so many people just like slough up because you're not an energetic match for those people anymore. And it could feel kind of like dysregulating and lonely. And now I'm just like, oh my gosh, I only have like supportive, loving people in my life. And I'm so happy that I went, and it was not pretty and it was very ugly at times and it was just like hard. I'm just not to, there was a phase of doing the inner work where it was difficult, but I'm so happy I'm at a phase where I'm not repeating those patterns anymore. Now I have loving, supportive, like amazing relationships. And someone wrote, well, if you remove all toxic people, how do you know if you're triggered? And so I think like asking that question, there's like a subconscious belief that I need like to be triggered or I need toxicity. I need things to be hard in order to grow. And the human brain does work that way. Like we want to be in our comfort zone and we have to do growth sometimes by a lot of trauma or something happening. But if you have a growth mindset, you can avoid stuff like that. But the universe will bring you what you need and continue to bring you that pattern until you heal and elevate to another level of consciousness, for sure. But what I wrote back, and I think I'm just going to read exactly what I wrote. I wrote, if you have a wound that needs to be healed, you will get triggered. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you like remove, because narcissists make this mistake. One little tiny thing that they don't like, they're like, bye. And it's still like, you're still going to get triggered. So it's not about like you remove people and then I'm not triggered. Like if your wounds are there, the tiniest thing will trigger, you will still be there until you actually deal with it. So if you have a wound that needs to be healed, you'll get triggered until it's actually healed, until it's like acknowledged and you heal it, regardless of who you eliminate from your life. When you do enough inner work, you just stop attracting certain people and certain circumstances and certain things. Literally every area of your life gets better. Your health, wealth, relationships, career, even your spirituality or your connection to the universe or how you manifest or whatever you want to call it. It all gets better because you don't have that toxic energy around you and you're just not thinking from that place. And so when you do the inner work, you stop attracting that energy. And when you are triggered, it's just an indication that there's a wound that needs to be healed, is what I wrote. And you could see it in the YouTube comment section. I'm just rereading it for you. And it's indicating that there's just a wound. It's just something to look at. And you know what? You could just be thankful for that. It's like, hey, that's just helping me on my evolution process and get even closer to where I want to be, or closer to a state of peace and love and joy. That's really all that we want. This, so a lot of us are like, oh, this would make me so happy, or this would really, anything that you want to feel peace or love. That's it. Happy is a fleeting state. Happy is a good feeling. I'm just saying that what you really want at the end of the day is to feel peaceful and feel a state of like love, which is also a very peaceful state. And then the next question, you guys could ask me questions, by the way. These are just questions I got throughout the week. And the next question is, and I get this a lot in my private practice when people are grieving a relationship, is, okay, they're at that stage, because remember, when you're grieving a relationship, it's just like the stages of grief when someone dies, right? So there's anger, denial, compromise, or like bargaining, I'm sorry, is what I'm thinking of, bargaining, which is also kind of like compromising yourself. And then finally acceptance. But you can even go into acceptance and then go back into bargaining. And so this is more on the bargaining phase of things when you're in this relationship, especially with a toxic person. Narcissists are so good. And people with personality disorders are so good at messing with your brain in this way and making you think like everything's your fault, which is the form of gaslighting and deflection that they do to not take responsibility for anything. But so you start to gaslight yourself. The toxic narcissist, whatever, isn't around to gaslight you. So you're like, maybe if I just acted differently, maybe if I didn't respond this way or da da da. And it's like basically, if you think about it, it's like maybe if you didn't have any needs, like if you literally didn't respond to whatever that way, like if your existence didn't matter, if you didn't have a reaction to anything, that means you're thinking from like, and a lot of people, and when you're in relationships with people like this, it's like their needs come first and it's all about them and their reactions to things, and you are kind of like, okay, I don't really care type of energy in the relationship. And so you start gaslighting yourself. And to all of that, I say no, 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 no. When those things come up, know that it's normal, because your nervous system is used to being gaslit and everything about your experience being minimized, unless it's telling the narcissist how great they are. But everything about your experience is minimized. So there's a tendency to be like, oh my God, no, we'd still be together if I didn't do this or that. And yeah, it's all my fault. It's not. It's not. And you deserve to be in a safe, loving relationship where your needs could be met. I'm always talking about you should be in a relationship where there's a safe container within the relationship. Like there's an author that talks about couples therapy and stuff, and he calls it the couple bubble. So in your couple bubble, you should feel, even if it's uncomfortable, like, hey, I didn't like how whatever you responded to me and that makes me uncomfortable, whatever. Or you could have a moment where you're not perfect and you guys can talk about it. Your relationship should have a safe container, not you always performing for someone, or not you pretending like you're this perfect person that doesn't have any needs and you're just, which is a form of performance. We're not doing that. And it's also manipulative, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm just like this great, blah, 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 like the cool girl thing that I talked about this when I was talking about Kristen Bell and I like Kristen Bell, but her relationship and like doing this cool, like, oh, nothing bothers me, I don't have any needs. And Dax is he's a recovering addict and he might have some personality stuff there that he needs to, and I like them both, but I'm just saying that those dynamics are so common and they're so easy to fall into. But you have needs, and please don't ever gaslight yourself. And there's a phase of when my clients are healing through this, I have to call them out left and right, like, no, we're not doing that. And so I'm telling you that. And if you're seeing this and you're starting to think, like, I want you to remember every reason that you left that relationship, or the reasons that relationship wasn't maybe ideal for you. You weren't being treated as you should and as you want, need, and deserve, because we have certain things that we want in a relationship because we're meant to have them. And due to trauma or whatever, we tell ourselves, oh yeah, I can just settle for. No. Keep your standards, maybe even elevate your standards and hold them. Whatever level of consciousness you have, life will meet you there, I promise. And so it is an opportunity, like when you're at that precipice of like going back and forth of like, oh, you're gaslighting yourself, if I did things differently, if you can just stop and snap out of it and remember this, like, no, actually, I did everything I could, and I deserve someone that can show up and do healthy conflict resolution with me. I mean, that is the basis of any healthy relationship, work, family, friends, romantically. You have to have healthy conflict resolution, not like, oh, if I say something, I'm going to get dismissed or rejected. Like so you're going to live in a constant state of fear. Let's not do that. So, yeah, just know that, and tell yourself that. Take some what is called contrary action. So no, I deserve someone where my needs can be met, where I could be seen and heard, and I could have a calm conversation in like a safe container with someone about like what's going on with me. And then another thing, and this is also falls under a form of gaslighting yourself, because sometimes my clients be like, well, they didn't know, they were just dumb. Or the narcissist or person trying to avoid accountability will be like, oh God, I'm just a dumb guy, I'm just a dumb girl, I didn't know. Like this whole thing, bullshit. That is complete Bullshit. They know what they're doing. Trust me, they know what they're doing. It's called learned helplessness, and learned helplessness shows up in a lot of forms. Some people, like, literally, it's kind of an addiction where they really don't think that they're capable of doing certain things, and they want other people to do things for them and rescue them. And, like, it comes from, like, a certain type of trauma. This type of learned helplessness that I'm specifically talking about is a way to control and manipulate someone. Like, I need help, and it just do everything for me. And then you do whatever for them, and then it's not enough, and then they need more of this, and I need da 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 da. And if you have fallen into this trap, I certainly have. And it's like, what happens in this dynamic is that you can never do enough. You can never do enough. And, like, toxic people with personality disorders always make you feel like you can't do enough anyway. It's one of the ways that they exhaust you, consciously or unconsciously. And this dynamic of, like, just, oh yeah, they didn't know, they're just dumb, and, like, oh, no, they did know. I promise you they did know. You're seeing this because they did know what they were doing. They were completely aware of what they're doing, and they are trying to avoid not taking responsibility by saying, like, what? I didn't know. Oh my God. Like, you're just so demanding. I didn't know. They did know. Okay. Know that, trust that, believe that, because it's true. So this next one is, what are some signs of someone being, like, down low? Because I talk a lot about narcissists and people with personality disorders. They're, like, for instance, narcissistic men that pretend to be straight or whatever. They might be bi, right? They pretend they're secretly gay, but they hate women. They actually hate women. And then the same thing with who there are lesbians in these streets pretending to be straight that freaking hate men. They hate men. They have daddy issues. The narcissistic guys have mommy issues, and they hate men or they hate women. And they'll date you, they'll marry you, and they freaking hate you. And so I've made a couple of videos. They're all on YouTube. The one I made about narcissistic down low men, I made a compilation and it's on YouTube. And I just did one about, like, lesbians that, like, hate men, and like literally want to take them down and destroy them. So it's like, instead of dealing with your parental issues from whenever, you take them out in your relationships. And literally, and it's a form of, like, they want to be you. For instance, like, narcissistic men that are secretly gay, they want to be you. They hate that you have this feminine energy. You could just be feminine and, like, date a guy publicly if you want to, and that you have, like, this maybe feminine power that they don't have. And so there's all those things. But, like, the signs are, like, I mean, a lot of guys like this, they're kind of like, they'll have effeminate gestures. They talk about women poorly. They don't want you to wear makeup, and they want you to not, like, look feminine. A lot of them will be like, oh, you look prettier without makeup, and just try to, like, defeminize you. And it's also so you're not competing. Like, if you're getting attention, if you're someone that, like, you go to a restaurant, like, typically, like, when you go on a date, it's like you want to look cute or whatever. They don't like that. They don't like you getting any attention. And it's just an extra layer of it because they want that kind of, like, feminine attention if they're a guy. And a lot of down low guys also, they're constantly talking about they're also homophobic, but they're like, oh my God, that gay guy was looking at, it's like, why are we talking about this? Why do you care so much? And then, the obvious things are, and I think a serious, like, preoccupation with, like, sports or certain actors or certain people, or even, like, their friends, if they're, like, hyper fixated on their friends, or calling, like, I dated this one guy who, like, was calling his friend gay all the time, and I'm like, why are you so fixated on this man? And so just things like that. It's kind of hard, especially if you fall in love with someone, to realize that. But just be aware. And just, I mean, you could try asking them. I did, and it didn't go well. I'm like, hey, and I was, like, being in this very open-minded space. I'm like, I just want to know, like, your sexuality is your sexuality, but they like to keep that very secret. So, and then the same thing with the lesbians. I mean, they just hate men, and they want to take them down, and then they want to kind of, like, use them financially. And it doesn't matter if they have money or not. It's just a thing of, like, men, especially masculine men, a lot of their identity is around, like, what they're creating in the world and what they're being, like, providers and protectors. And it's like, and it's a resource, and it's their energy, and it's their identification. So it's like, I want to drain that from you. And and like the more you invest in me, like the more committed you are to me. So I'm just going to keep pulling you in that way. And they just actually don't like men. And like, the biggest sign I think of, and I talk about in that video, is like, oh, I like girls, and like always talking about how they're like bi and everything. They're not bi. They want to have a threesome so they can just hook up with the girl, and like, you know, the girl can, they don't, I mean, they'll tolerate having sex with you. I hate this, but I've heard everything in my private practice, and I know this for a fact. They'll like tolerate it, whatever. They'll marry you to get what they want, but they don't hate, they hate you. Like, these people hate you. Um, and yeah, the last one, I kind of covered it earlier, but it's about the discarding phase. Like, so when a narcissist basically, um, and this happens a lot when you just ask them to take accountability. They break up with you when you want them to take accountability for something. When you just like have had enough, and you know, it's usually like you're the crazy one, all the things you know what, and they'll spin the story to make themselves look like the victim or whatever. But then it's like, bye, yeah, I'm done. I just, yeah, I'm great knowing you. Yeah, I wasn't really like that into it. Whatever they need to do. When narcissists are ending a relationship, I mean, and they'll do it like if they're, you know, because they always have supply, they're always like entertaining something else, right? And having some type of inappropriate relationship with multiple people. And so they'll just jump to that person to get supply and affection and admiration from that person. And then it's just like, and it really does feel like you don't matter. And I have so many times, like in my private practice, I mean, that's sometimes how I meet my clients, when they're in that phase of like, did that whole relationship really mean nothing? And there's a couple things, like, so a lot of narcissists have like, and borderlines too, like have this like avoidant style, attachment style that comes up where they just cut off. They're like, oh, well, I'm done. I don't really care. I don't really care. It wasn't that big of a deal of a relationship. And to a certain extent, like avoidant style of breaking up like that, I think part of it, they do believe that. And they're like, oh my God, I'm so relieved. I'm so, now I can spend more time doing X, Y, and Z. I'm just so relieved. Like, and I think that part of they will believe that for a minute, and then they really do want to believe that, so they don't have any feelings. It's like, I don't have any. There's these are type of people that are so afraid to process their emotions, and if they do have active addictions, then they'll go into the addictions, and most of them do have like some type of addiction. But anyway, they're going to numb out with something. It's usually another person. So all I'm saying is to not take it personally, and that also these people view every human being as supply. That's why it's called narcissistic supply. Borderline people do this too. I wish they would just call it like supply for all the personality disorders, because you are just a thing for them to get their ego needs met, and other whatever, if they like have financial needs or whatever they need from you, they are just takers, and they're taking. That's why it's exhausting to be around them. It could be like when you don't really know them and you're being like all drawn in the love bombing phase. It can feel exciting. It can feel like, oh my God, we're just like immediate best friends, and like this person's so amazing, like that type of thing. And until you get to know them, then it's like a 180, you know. And that's what they fear the most, is like, oh my God, I don't want this person to really know me. But yeah, so in the discarding phase, it's just kind of like, I'm done with you, because one, you're trying to hold me accountable for something, and I don't like taking accountability for anything, because that means, in their mind, if they take accountability for something, that they're bad and they're not perfect, and that you're taking them down from their pedestal, and they just cannot handle that. Any form of even constructive criticism, they completely view as a complete, like, it's called narcissistic annihilation. Like, they're just, ego cannot handle any type of criticism, even if it's something that would benefit them. So so they have to discard like that and act like they don't care. And then, you know, what sucks is like you start to heal a little bit and they circle back around. And sometimes you'll get pulled back in until you do it again. And then you're like, you know what, fuck it, I've had enough. And sometimes we need that to really strengthen our resolve in what we want, need, and deserve in relationships. So that's okay. Please don't judge yourself or beat yourself up if you've taken this person back 1, 2, 100 times. It doesn't matter. What I care about is, are you learning from that? Are you learning from that relationship? Are you learning what you want, need, and deserve? Are you evolving? Are you repeating the same pattern? If not, then we need to talk more. Okay. If not, we need to sign up for my course or something, or just, you know, watch YouTube videos, whatever, but pour into yourself. Pour into yourself constantly. That is the fastest way to release any type of toxic patterns around anything, really. If you have an addiction issue, if you have even like attracting these toxic people is a form of an addiction. If you are familiar with 12-step and program like that, like Al-Anon talks a lot about this, you become addicted to like being like codependent or a doormat. And ACA and these are all free resources, by the way, that are just like amazing for really understanding yourself in relationships. ACA is Adult Children of Alcoholics and like chaotic homes. And but all I'm saying is please, please, please pour into yourself. Watch everything on my YouTube channel. DM me and ask me questions. I'll hop right on here and answer them, and continue to answer them. I love answering your questions. Take my course. I have a course called Thriving After Narcissistic Abuse and Toxic Relationships, because that is what I focus on. It's not a place, and you could tell from my content, like I'm not here to like stay in victim mode. I'm also not a fan of like this, what I think is clickbait, like, oh, here's how to blah, blah, blah. And here's how to like, I will like, because sometimes we're in situations where we're at work or we have to like interact with a narcissist, but I focus on like, I want you to be at an energy level and like where in a level of consciousness where you're just not attracting those they don't even come into your reality anymore. So most of my content is about that. But yeah, I do give content about how to respond to things when you need to, because that is part of it. But it's more about thriving. My content is about you and helping you become the highest and best version, like the most spiritually. I was saying highest and best, and someone was like, well, I could just smoke a bunch of weed. And I'm like, oh my God. No, that's not what I meant. I meant like being like the best version of yourself, right? If your health, wealth, relationships, and career, that is what I want from you. Any content I make before I push post, like that is my intention all the time. And any of my courses, any service I provide, it's like, I want you to be the best version of yourself and like continue. We're here to evolve. We're here to have a growth mindset. If you don't have a growth mindset, you're getting stagnant and moldy and things aren't looking good. These people that are like, oh yeah, I'm still the same, blah, blah, leave those people alone. Those are not your people. It's like, I compare, like if you're not doing inner work, if you're not evolving in some type of way, like because our nervous system, our brain is meant to do that, like on a physical level. If you have any type of spirituality, it's the same thing. We're meant to evolve and elevate our level of consciousness. And if you don't, it's like leaving trash. Like you have trash, you take it out when it's time. And if you don't, it gets stinky. Now, what if you're leaving trash in there for a month or 6 months or a year? And like, it's the analogy to that is like, okay, if you just have this unprocessed trauma that's just sitting there, it's starting to stink and it's affecting other parts of your life and it's not cute. Okay. And everyone notices, and most people won't say anything unless they're me, because I do this for a living and I have a very low tolerance for fucking bullshit like that. So anyway, which is another reason I don't like attract a lot of narcissists, or when when my narcissistic exes or friends or family members swing back around, they're quickly like swinging back out, because it's like, I'm not the one to be messing with anymore. That version of me is gone. Right. And the same thing with my clients. Like when a narcissist, it's called hoovering, they'll circle back and like for attention or hoping you give them the praise or whatever, when they first met you. If you're at a different level of consciousness because you've done the work and you're healing, they're like, oh, nah, I can't get my ego needs met. Bye. Good. So that's what I want for you. I want you to just have the most healthy, loving, supportive relationships, thriving, having like the money that you want, the career, just like the most fulfilling life. That's what my content's about. So if you have questions, I'll post this live stream. It's posting on YouTube and Facebook right now, but if there's any other questions during the week, I will circle back. And I go live at least once a week. So I'm here for you guys. So thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.